Last video, we discussed one of the unseen forces that stops most networking events before they even start. It's what prevents people from succeeding when they don't even realize what's holding them back. And as a quick refresher, most networking events start with your opening line, your one-liner. How do you start the conversation? How do you connect with this new person? But the reality is we need to address one problem first before we get into the actual steps, and that is dealing with the fear of the approach. So we talked about that a little bit in the last video. In this video, I'm going to give you some strategies and ways you can overcome that, because if you help your audience deal with the fear of the approach straight out the gate, then all of a sudden, all of the other techniques are more open and accessible because the fear is now gone and they're focused on human connection. In the last video, we also talked about the 3 levels of networking and how we can start to move deeper into those levels. The first being surface, the second being personal, and the third being meaning. Surface is when we're just exchanging facts, what your job title is, where you're from, how long you've worked there. Personal is when you start to exchange stories. Human beings are not logically driven creatures as much as we want to believe we are. We're emotional creatures that justify our emotions with logic. The reason people often don't get to deeper connection when it comes to networking is they stay in that superficial stats and facts and figures just up here in that very most surface level. They do not get into the stories, and the stories are what create both emotional shifts and emotional connection. It is when we have more emotions and senses involved in an experience that we remember it more, we retain more, and we take action. And typically, change is not made until there is a significant emotional shift. This is why many times we go, I know I should be doing X, but I keep doing Y, until there's a strong enough emotional shift that prompts a person to take new action. So as event coordinators, as designers, as event planners, as speakers, if we design our events to set them up so that they are having emotional shifts in a safe and accessible way without even really realizing it, not some deep, profound, scary question, you can set them up for so much more success, because what happens is without them even realizing it, they're going from those surface level facts into their personal stories and then down to meaning. This is their values and their goals. These are the things they hold dearest. This is how they perceive the world. The more you understand these things about a person, the more you can help bring those things into their lives and be a positive contributing factor in their life and create deeper connections that are far more meaningful than simply exchanging job titles. The main idea here is to give people activities that help them move deeper into those connection levels without it feeling forced or without it feeling like too much too soon. Like imagine a stranger coming up to you and asking this really deep, very personal question. What's your greatest fear? That's too much too soon for most people. The other thing is we want to make sure these activities are accessible and they don't make people uncomfortable. Again, a question like that is too much too soon, and either people will disengage, they won't participate, they'll use a safe answer, so you're not getting genuine depth, or they'll just kind of talk about something else during the activity. Go, I don't really want to talk about this. You want to talk about something else. None of those are beneficial to deepening connections in the room and helping your event be a greater success. The core problem with most activities at any type of networking or even personal development style event or a business event is that they ask the individuals to take all of the risk, to risk connection, risk approaching, risk starting a new conversation, and they offer none of the support. The other thing is they offer no time limits. They don't make it time bound. So people go, is this going to go on forever? And that's terrifying. So now I've got all the fear, all the uncertainty, all the cringiness of networking I'm trying to get away from, I'm trying to avoid. And now you're saying, go network. What does that mean? About what? Where? With who? And then for how long? How long is this going to go on? Successful activities, on the other hand, will have 2 key components. One, a clear and specific outcome, so an action to take with a clear outcome, and a time limit. This lets them know, hey, we're going to do it for this amount of time. That's how long you should expect. That's how long you should budget. And here's the clear outcome we're looking for out of this activity. Things we want to avoid are things like, okay, everyone go network. Go network. That doesn't really tell them what to do or where with who, and it just gets the whole room cringing straight away like, oh my God, what do I say? Where do I start? And all the fears of networking come up. Or saying, go meet some new people, right? It's too vague. I don't have a goal. I don't have a target. And how long are we doing this? Is the session done? Are we coming back after? It leads to all these confusion-based questions that don't set the room up to succeed. So kicking an event off can have very simple, very basic activities. Stand up and meet 3 new people, introduce yourself to 3 new people. Already, you're creating more connection, you're creating more depth, and you go from a room of strangers to making new friends. You can also say meet 3 new people, 3 people you didn't come with, 3 people you've never met before, because this encourages that collaboration outside of the groups that we came with. And it also sets the tone from the start that, hey, we're here to meet new people and build new connections. Now, those are nice activities to kick off an event and start to help people with the fear of the approach, because now you're giving them a specific thing. Go introduce, say your name, shake hands, give a high five, all that, right? You can do at certain events, you can say, go high five 5 random people. You can give hugs if comfortable, but you always want to give people an out with physical stuff, because not everyone is the extrovert that wants to give bear hugs to strangers. So giving people options, saying, hey, if you're not comfortable, just hold up a high five, let people know you want to keep some space. If you're cool with a hug, let them know, signal. These are all things. But again, if we're talking a strictly like business networking event, you're typically not introducing touch in that way, aside from handshakes, because that's the most safe and accessible and most professional. And as nice as those activities are, and they are good in certain contexts, it just depends on how warm the room is and the size of the room. There's a variety of factors that determine what activities you can and can't use and what work well from a design perspective. The problem with those activities, though, although they give that little hit of dopamine and maybe some oxytocin through the connections that are being made and the physical touch, the eye contact, the excitement of new connections, they generally don't help us move deeper, right? We're still at surface because we don't know anything about this person yet, and we haven't been able to get into their stories. And the stories is where we start to glean the meaning. Because if we say, why was that so important to you? What did that mean? What did that teach you? That's how we move into that deeper level. So here's one example to kick off an event that I think is one of my favorites to use, and it is incredibly powerful. I use this both in coaching contexts, workshops, speeches, because you can do this as a call and response. You can do this with audience shares. You can have them just do it themselves internally. It's equally powerful, but I think the most power comes when it gets shared. So the idea is that if you want people to share more deeply and openly without getting them to share something explicitly, you need to create a way for them to be vulnerable without feeling vulnerable. Vulnerable just means they're sharing something deep, true, or authentic. But if you say, what is your deepest truth? What is the thing you hold closest to your heart? That can be very overwhelming. So one of my favorite ways to do it is this. You come out and right out the gate, you engage the audience and you ask them. I want to start by having you write down one thing. Who is the person in your life that inspires you the most? Who is the person in your life that inspires you the most? Now, depending on how much time you have and the type of activity or the type of event, normally what I will say is the person in your life, right? That you have a personal connection with, because this goes far deeper than the person who inspires them from TV or like a mentor. Those people can have huge impacts, but the person is human and real, and you generally haven't put on a pedestal like you would a celebrity or some like major entrepreneurial figure. So what this does is it helps them concretize that you as a person are as valuable as this person is to you, to other people in your life. What this does is when you say, who's the person that inspires you most in your life? Give them a second to think. They write this down and then go, why? Write down 2 to 3 things. Why is that so important? Why are they so impactful? Why are they so inspiring? Take 2 minutes and share with a neighbor or share with 2 people, right? You use these prompts, but you want it to be clear and specific. So, all right, take 2 minutes and share with a neighbor, and then we're going to switch to the person on your other side or the person behind you, and we're going to do another 2 minutes there. What happens is people go, my mom, my dad, my 4th grade teacher. And inevitably you go, why? And they go, well, because they did this. They always showed up on time. Their words matched their actions. They taught me that anything can be achieved with hard work. And now you see, you're getting little micro stories, but really you're almost shortcutting into their values. You're getting to meaning and values. Because if we had time, we go, what's one of your favorite stories of how they demonstrated this, of why they inspire you? Well, then they go, my mom. And then they tell a story about why mom was so inspiring. And then they go, it's those things she taught me about honesty, about being genuine, and about taking care of people no matter what, that really stood with me throughout my entire life. This is where it's so easy and subtle, because talking about who inspires you is a safe question most people are comfortable to answer. If you ask people certain other questions, it can get more inflammatory. Like if you asked, who's your favorite political figure? You can see how that would get very, very tense in a lot of rooms. This is why when I say, if I'm doing a speech training and I'm asking the room to say, tell me about a speaker you find inspiring, I say, exclude politicians, right? I want more general speakers or a TED Talk or a motivational speaker, because there is too much conflict and friction that is unintentional that can come up if we prompt for certain types of things. Also, these activities should link to the overall theme of the keynote, of the workshop, of the event, of the presentation. Because if I say, who inspires you most? The implication is that inspiration is going to be relevant for this presentation. Now, let's say we're doing one that's about, this whole event is about stepping up and becoming your greatest self and pushing past your limitations and all of this. Well, in essence, by asking about who inspires you most, what I'm actually doing is I want to understand, who do you aspire to be like the most in the world? Because if they inspire you most, there are often many traits that they have that you want to embody. And most of the time you go, they're here because they're the expert, they're the master, and I'm here and I want to get to their level. So it creates an aspirational component. It demonstrates through a person that this is achievable, but it also addresses that we have a gap. Like, I'm saying they're here and I'm here and there's a reason for this. What do I need to do to get there? And that's why they're at the event. So simply by crafting the activity deliberately with the overall arc in mind, you can set people up, you can create connections, you can warm up the room, you remove the fear of the approach straight out the gate, you warm the room up. And here's another kind of bonus thing is by immediately engaging your audience in an activity, whether or not they end up talking, it lets them know, hey, I see you and I'm here. I'm not just some recording on a screen. We're in this room together. And although you can rewatch the recording anytime, what we create right now is once in a lifetime. And this is the magic we create in the room. That's becoming increasingly rare. So by having speakers and having presenters, or you as the lead, understanding this and applying this to your sessions, it completely changes the framework from the first moment you come on stage. That pattern interrupt of engaging with an activity, either one where they speak, write, think, or all three, is insanely powerful. And keep in mind, you can adjust based off the size of the room and the format. Because if you have rounds with 8 person per table, you can say, get up and go share with someone at the other table. But if you have 1,000 person theater, you can't have people getting up and getting out of the middle of the row and then going up. It takes too much time, especially if you're doing a 60-minute presentation. You barely have any time. So it's far better for those to say, turn to your neighbor and share. Or the bigger it gets, let's say you just really need to get in and get out, think about the person who inspires you most. Write down 1 or 2 things. Think about why and then you use prompts to have them do this internally. The best is when they connect with other human beings and they start to build those connections and then go even deeper. Because again, we're trying to move from surface to stories to meaning, right? We're trying to go surface, personal, meaning, those 3 levels. And the idea is, how do we use stories and effective prompts to get them there in a way that's relevant to the overall flow of the conference and helps build them towards that clear call to action at the end, whatever that is. Join the program, join our organization, donate to the cause. Design is so critical because it considers all of the factors from the macro idea and theme of the presentation down to linking together all of the different presenters. Simply by being effective in the way you craft the networking that goes around it, you increase the likelihood of people gaining more value from the sessions, being more attentive, participating more in the sessions, and not just ending up going, well, I don't really feel connected, so I'm just going to go hang with my friends and have like a nice weekend. This is where you get them to have incredible breakthroughs, incredible results. Their business grows, they grow personally, and they are getting all of this and more. Then they also get that social time because now they're building new connections and they can't wait to come back next year. In video 1, we talked about the issue with networking is not the people. It's not a people problem, it's a design problem. That should be very encouraging because this means it's not people's fault and it's not just, hey, you get what you get in the room. We can actually create better events through design. Then we also talked about the number one thing that most networking training misses and most networking events fail to address is helping people overcome the fear of the approach. That was all video 1. Video 2, we talked about here's some ways and here's why we need to get over this. Here's how we can get over this. And one specific example you can start using today. We also went deeper on the concept of networking has 3 levels: surface, personal, and then meaning. And we want to move to those deeper levels because your deepest connections come from people that you share values and goals and depth, right? There is a vulnerability that exists because you have shared deep truths and you've done that through your stories, which is that personal level. And that supports all the facts. Most people start with facts and try to go deeper, and they're wasting time. We can go deeper through stories and get to a far greater foundation for a relationship way faster. So we don't have to wait for all this time. We don't have to build over time. We set a strong foundation for a first interaction that can build into something meaningful versus the people who are coming and just trying to pitch, sell. They're using old school methods that don't work, probably didn't work as well as they were purported to back in the day, definitely don't work as well now. And then they're left wondering why, hey, I collected a bunch of business cards. I said we'll do lunch a lot and nothing happened. Versus at my events and using the non-cringy networking principles, people find themselves going, I never have enjoyed a networking event like that before. I've never had this kind of connection. To me, it's like seeing both meeting planners and the participants go, I've never had anything like this. I've been doing this 20 years and never had this experience. That for me is the juice, because especially when you get extroverts to say, hey, I really enjoyed this more than I typically do, or I learn new skills. I realize what a great networker I am. That's fantastic. But also we get the people who go, I typically hate networking. I've never enjoyed these events. This is the first time I've enjoyed it. And for the first time, I'm looking forward to networking in the future. Those types of shifts are incredible. So in order to avoid that, in our next video, we're going to talk about 3 of the most common mistakes that event and meeting planners make when designing their events, and even expert level, even highly experienced meeting and event planners. So I will see you in our next video.